How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. If you're seeing this, it's probably because you're wondering if now is a good time to be buying Bitcoin. Now, whether Bitcoin's at $60,000, $50,000, $40,000, $120,000, this video is going to be for you. If you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see future videos just like this. And there is a link down there to a couple different trading exchanges. There's going to be a link to Loaf and there's going to be a link to CoinW. Now, to be clear, these aren't necessarily for beginners, but if you do want to trade, there's a link underneath the video to them. Now, I had someone reach out to me in the Patreon and ask if now is a good time to be buying Bitcoin. If you're not already a whole coiner or if you haven't started buying Bitcoin, and this is going to happen because there are going to be millions, tens of millions of people that start buying Bitcoin from here until the next bear market. Now, we don't know if there's ever going to be another bear market with the amount of Bitcoin that's being bought up by institutions, right? We don't know if we're going to go into the same kind of bear market that we've seen in the past where we see Bitcoin go down 70 or 80%. We might not ever get to that point. Now, a lot of people wonder, okay, well, Bitcoin's been moving up so much. I see it go up day after day. Should I buy or should I just wait? Should I sit on my hands because it could go down, right? Should I buy now even though it's up 50% in the last month or 20% in the last week? Maybe it's down a little bit and I want to know, is now the time to buy? Now, what I typically say is this, and I've said this in videos, but I'm not sure I've ever made a specific video for this. If I didn't have any allocation to Bitcoin, I would buy today, no matter what the price is. If I finally understood Bitcoin enough, I would buy today. Now, I wouldn't go and put in my life savings. I wouldn't go put it on 100x leverage. I would go buy spot Bitcoin, which means I would go to some exchange, deposit some money, and start buying. Now, maybe you want to start with $100, right? I think the best thing to do is get to 1% allocation to start. No matter where you're at, let's say you have $10,000. 1% allocation, $10,000 net worth, 1% allocation means $100 of Bitcoin. You might be saying that's too little. I have $1,000 I want to put into Bitcoin. Start with $100. You can determine tomorrow or next week, next month if you want to put in more. But start with 1% because there are going to be vicious swings. Just today, at the time of this recording, we went from $57,000 up to $64,000, then back down to $59,000. Now we're at $61,000. There's going to be vicious swings and you're going to learn a lot about yourself, but you want to start with 1% allocation so you actually buy enough that you feel it, right? You feel the emotions, but not so much that you're uncomfortable. Because what if you buy 10% of your net worth? Let's say you're worth $1 million and you buy $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, which is really hard for people anyways. Most people aren't that liquid. If they have $1 million, most of it's in a 401k, a business, a house. But let's say you do that. You have $100,000. Well, you're going to experience some big swings. Most people aren't used to that kind of volatility. And if you buy $100,000 and it goes down to $80,000 worth of Bitcoin, you might freak out and decide that you should just sell because people are saying to sell. We went up too quickly. Now we're having a big pullback. It's not smart to sell your Bitcoin, at least not at the price that we're seeing today. Maybe if you have made some profits, you want to take some profits, right? Maybe you buy at $60,000, you want to sell at $200,000. Maybe you want to sell a little bit to get your initial out, something like that. I get that. But start with 1% allocation. If we buy the exact top, let's say Bitcoin's at $60,000 and it goes down to $30,000 and you put in 1% allocation, well, you lost 0.5% of your net worth in dollar terms, right? Hopefully now you see how to buy Bitcoin. You know what to do. You're not going to be hung up on buying Bitcoin and you can dollar cost average into it more. Even if we're moving up, right? Yes, it would be the best to buy Bitcoin if we're at $60,000 and we move up to $70,000 next week. It would have been better to go and put all your money in Bitcoin that you felt like you want to put in Bitcoin. Let's say you have 5% allocation. It would have been better to put it all at $60,000 into the market monetarily, right? But we don't know that that's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And it's usually better to dollar cost average. Your emotions are smoother. You realize, okay, well, if we go up, at least I have some money in Bitcoin already. And if we go down, well, then I have some more money to buy Bitcoin, right? You're not going to necessarily feel like buying too. If you buy at $60,000, a lot of the time you won't feel like buying at $70,000 or $80,000 or $90,000 because We have anchoring bias, which means that if we bought an asset at a certain price, we oftentimes don't want to pay more for it in the future, right? Like it's different with things you need. Like if you buy a gallon of milk for $2 and then next year it's $2.50, like, okay, well, you're still going to buy the milk. But with assets, a lot of the time we have anchoring bias. We think, okay, well, I bought it for cheaper. I could have bought more before, so now I'm not going to buy because it's a little bit more expensive. But keep in mind, there are large institutions that are buying Bitcoin. There are billionaires buying Bitcoin. Every country in the world is looking at Bitcoin, and they're looking at their own currency that's being devalued and thinking maybe we should have some allocation to Bitcoin. Maybe we should hold it on our treasury balance sheet. Maybe we want to invest in ourselves. Maybe we want to mine Bitcoin. All the large institutions, all the millionaires in the world, they're all looking at Bitcoin. Whether they buy it or not, that's another question. But they're all looking at Bitcoin, and BlackRock and Fidelity gave their stamp of approval. The Bitcoin price is hitting all-time highs in all different kinds of currencies across the world. And when that happens, more and more people look at Bitcoin. Like if you see that it's hitting an all-time high in your currency, you look at Bitcoin, it's being circulated that someone made millions of dollars in Bitcoin. It's hitting all-time highs. You start thinking, okay, well, maybe I want to put some money into Bitcoin myself. And then you have FOMO that sets in. More and more people look at Bitcoin, so more and more people buy Bitcoin, and then it hits an all-time high in price in more currencies, and then more people hear about it and see it and then buy it, and then it continues on. We're at the beginning of the next bull market. We're in the perfect situation. So if you're looking at Bitcoin wondering if I should buy, you're never going to know the exact best price to buy at, right? When we were at $16,000 Bitcoin, people didn't know that was the bottom. Some people were scared that it was going to go further down. But if you waited and got greedy, you never got to that same price. We moved up from there, and it's been up only. Now, sometimes you could look at it before we hit $16,000, and at $25,000, it looked pretty cheap. You could have bought then and then been pissed off that it went down to $16,000 and you could have bought more. But I bet you now you're not too worried about it, right? With enough time, Bitcoin goes up. So if you buy now at $60,000 and then it goes down to $50,000, you might be pissed at the time. You could have bought some more Bitcoin. But then when we go up to $150,000, it's not really going to matter. The key is to start investing because then you can get a larger allocation, right? I'd rather have 5% of my portfolio buying Bitcoin at $60,000 than 3% at $50,000. Because then when we move back up, when we're at $120,000 Bitcoin, I'd have a lot more Bitcoin if I was able to put a higher allocation in Bitcoin. And that conviction to buy Bitcoin only comes with time. It comes from being in the market, and it comes from understanding. So make sure you put in the hours, make sure you understand it, make sure you understand the ins and outs of what happens in the crypto market, be ready for volatility, and you should be good. You should be ready to ride this market to new highs. Let me know your thoughts on this underneath the video. Is this how you would approach the Bitcoin market? Thank you so much for watching. Check out the links in the description. If you're on mobile, I just figured out that the hyperlinks don't work in the comment section. You have to go up to the description, so check those out. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.